Hey guys, I'm excited to be back and I'm making new SkyWest flight attendant video frequently asked questions. I again got so many questions from you, so thank you, and I will try to answer them. And today is Saturday. We have only one day left in 2017, so I hope that you enjoyed this year and maybe you will be starting your new job as a flight attendant for SkyWest in the first months of 2018. So good luck to you, and if you are thinking about joining SkyWest, so hopefully this video will help you and maybe answer some of your questions. So let's get started so it's not too long as per usual. Question number one is, do I need my passport for the interview session? No, you don't. You need to have your passport for the first day of training. It is absolutely required. People get sent home in my class for not having a passport the first day of training. So make sure that you do have it. They don't accept any sort of a receipt that you applied for a passport. No, an actual passport for your training. However, I think it's a great idea to start applying for your passport right now, in this moment, in this second, because it is always beneficial to have, second ID, or maybe you're applying for different airlines and they do require you to have passport for interview. So make sure that you do have it. Question number two, what should I mention in my 60-second speech? So the 60-second speech, I've talked about it previously. That's a part of your interview. It's the first part of the interview session. This is where everybody's still in the room and you get on stage and you talk for up to 60 seconds about what would make you a great flight attendant for SkyWest. And really focus on the basics, and the basics are safety, security, customer service. Yeah, I think that's about it. That's what all the airlines want to hear, and I would say that there are more things that you shouldn't mention in your 60-second speech, such as I love to travel. Don't say, do you like going on vacations? In my interview, we had a guy who said, I want to be a flight attendant because I'm an entrepreneur, so I need a second job. So yeah, that probably wasn't a good thing to say. And yeah, definitely keep it under 60 seconds. I want to talk about the 60-second speech more in maybe like later videos that I'm going to make, because it is not just about what you actually say, but it's about how you act and how you present yourself. Question number three, do you think that it's valuable to have references? I know someone who works for SkyWest. Yes and no. I had someone, so when you first check in for your interview, there was a girl in front of me. She knew someone, I think he was a pilot for SkyWest, and he gave her a reference, and she didn't make the face-to-face, and so I would say that it is beneficial, but at the same time, don't think that it is a great advantage. It is still really mostly up to what you say and how much they like your resume and your 60-second speech. But yes, they will ask you, do you know someone? They asked me, do you know someone who works for SkyWest? I said no, but if you say yes, then they ask, do you have a reference? So yeah. SkyWest told me that they will get back to me within 10 days, so I'm assuming that they interviewed. Now they're waiting for the answer within 10 days, but it's been more than 10 days. Is this still good news? Yes, absolutely. I'm sure that they are just busy, and it's taking them longer than they expect to review everybody. Just like any airline, they also have limited resources, and it's unfortunately taking longer. I've heard that they had over 300 people interviewing in Atlanta, which is a lot, so it takes a while before they get through everybody. Keep checking, make sure that you're not getting their emails to your spam folder. That happened to me. So yeah, so make sure that you check daily, but no news, great news, right? Question number 5, does being a bilingual speaker help my chances? That's a good question, And I speak 4 languages, and I didn't really advertise it, mostly because I know that the languages I speak, you know, SkyWest doesn't fly to Germany or the Czech Republic or Slovakia, so it's not like I was like a hot item for them. But I think it kind of depends on how you present yourself as a bilingual speaker. Because, for example, you can say, I speak Spanish. In my previous job, I was the only one speaking Spanish, and I was a valuable asset for my company because I was able to help customers who didn't speak English. And the customers, when they returned back, they were very happy that they had someone who spoke Spanish, and so on and so on. So I would say that, you know, just tell the recruiter, if they ask you if your language skills come up, just say something nice. Say how it helped you previously and how you benefit from it, and why not. But at the same time, it is not a requirement to speak more than 1 language for SkyWest. So, you know, don't think that because you speak 3 languages that you already got the job. Next question, kind of related to languages. Do they ask you to speak perfect English? So obviously, as you can guys hear, I have an accent. I don't speak perfect English. The way they ask you about like your language skills or English skills, it's just they define it as must be able to speak, understand, write in English, and I think that's it. So if you have an accent, that's not a problem. I would say that it could be a problem if your accent is really strong and nobody can understand you. That might be an issue, but if you have an accent, you're fine. When you are in training, do you get your own room? That kind of depends. It depends on how many roommates you have, on the size of the suite. And when I was in training, we actually moved once, and the first time I didn't have my own room, but I had only 1 roommate. She had her own room, and then I would be staying in the living room. So it was still kind of like my space. And then we moved to a different part of the hotel, and I would have 2 roommates. And one of the girls, she was a bit older, so we were just like, you know, take the room, and then we will switch the other room. So 1 week I would be on the couch, the other week she would be on the couch, and we would switch in between the rooms. And now, full transparency, the last week of training, we were just like so tired. We became good friends, that we like shared the beds together because our backs were hurting. But I would also say that I felt very lucky that SkyWest paid for my training, for my transportation, and they actually put us in a hotel for free. And many airlines, they don't do it. They require you to get your own hotel or accommodation. So really, whatever I got, I was happy with, and I was really grateful. So, and it's also a good practice for you if you get a crash bed and you have to share a room with people. Yeah, you probably won't have the privacy that you have at home, but it is still fine, I think. Is it possible to be in school and also be a flight attendant? You're asking the girl that stopped flying because of school. No, I think it obviously also depends on your situation. I don't know if you're getting your bachelor's degree, or you're maybe just thinking about going back to school, or you're doing your master's, and so on and so on. I stopped flying because my program is very time demanding. I have to do a lot of research. There is also a lot of like group projects, that's how I would call them, and it just wasn't possible. I was in one of the most senior bases. I was on reserve. I worked every single day on reserve, and I got to a point where I was just so stressed out, and you just start kind of questioning, like, why do I do this, you know? And then I kind of decided that, you know, it's not worth it. I really do need to focus on school. I obviously go to school because college degree is important to me. When I finish my master's, and that was always like my long-term goal in life. So that's kind of why determined that it wasn't worth it for me. But at the same time, I know people who fly and who go to school. And the people that do that, they were from Salt Lake and they were fairly senior. And I had a girl that she's been with SkyWest for like 15 years. Now she does her bachelor's online. And there was another girl in Denver, and I think she did her school on the weekends, but she was able to hold weekends off. So it really does depend. But I would say that if you are finishing your degree, if you have maybe like a year or a year and a half left, go ahead and finish your degree and then be done, and then start applying for this job. When you first start flying, your schedule can be very unpredictable, and I think that, you know, if you care about your GPA, then that might actually hurt you. I don't know, it really does depend. And if you're a good online student and if you can take classes online, maybe that's a great idea. But I would say that your life is going to be really busy, and it's going to be mostly about flying and school. There is not going to be much time left for you to do anything else. Okay. Next question is, how do they determine seniority in training? I feel like I've talked about it already, but if not, then they do it on the last 4 digits of your social security. So, for example, mine started with number 3. I was still like in half of the class, so yeah. But if yours is 00 something, then you most likely will be number 1. And also, if you are a previous employee of SkyWest, so let's say for example, like I worked for SkyWest, and if I decide to go back, I will keep my my employee number, and I will be most likely number 1, even though my social security is, you know, 3 something. They don't look at that at that point. They just look at the day when you were hired. And if there's somebody who was hired before me, then they would be number 1, then I would be behind them, and so on and so on. And so yeah, it is important to, well, there isn't much you can do about it, right? You can't change your social, but obviously higher seniority can help you with things like, you know, getting to the base you want, and so on and so on. But at the same time, there's always going to be somebody above you, somebody under you. So sometimes I feel like people stress too much about seniority. Okay, this is another question about the 60-second speech. I'm not passing the 60-second speech. What do I do wrong? I wasn't in the room with you, but there's, just like I said, there's much more to it than just answering to the question, what would make you a great flight attendant? Before I went to my interview, I read a book, which I read in college, but I read the book again. And I think I mentioned the book before, and it's called The Exceptional Presenter. And in the book, they talk about your nonverbal language and what you do with your hands and your legs and with your entire body, and how it actually influences everything. And also, don't forget that when you're delivering your 60-second speech, the recruiters are also overlooking your resume. So if it's a resume that is related to this job, like I had customer service experience, which I'm sure was helpful. So I'm sure that helped too. And I made sure that my voice was clear, that I smiled, that I just, you know, did what I felt was right. And yeah, so that's part of it. And of course, I would also say that just watch what you do when you enter the hotel. Also, make sure that you interact with people. The recruiters are watching, you know, and if they maybe saw me being kind to somebody, being, you know, like just very friendly to somebody, and then I was up on the stage delivering the 60-second speech, maybe the recruiter was like, oh, I remember she was really friendly to that girl. That's what we're looking for too. So yeah, so it can be really a couple of things. And just like I said, maybe I want to make a new video about the 60-second speech. Now, almost last question. What are the advantages and disadvantages of junior and senior domiciles? That's a great question. So just to explain it again a little bit, junior base is a base where you're not usually on reserve for too long. You can hold the line very quickly. Junior bases right now, from what I've heard, are Boise and Detroit. And senior bases such as Salt Lake, Palm Springs, Tucson usually means that you are on reserve for years, like Salt Lake, like 5 years in Salt Lake. And sometimes it also means that you work a lot because they might be understaffed. Now, the disadvantages and advantages. Obviously, holding a line, that's great. But in small bases or in junior bases, sometimes it means that you're not flying great trips. You might be flying 6 legs on the 200th. For somebody, it can be a dream. For me, that would be definitely a nightmare. You are probably flying pretty short distances, or it is junior because nobody wants to live there. It might not be like a desirable place, might be, cold. Like Minneapolis is fairly junior, and it's always been fairly junior. And I don't know. It's, from what I've heard, it's because people just don't really want to relocate there. And they always had the 200s. They flew very short distances, everything I said before. And senior bases are senior because people do want to live there, because it's a desirable place to live, because they have great trips. When I was based in Salt Lake, which is really senior, it sucked to be like number 10 from the bottom, but at the same time, all my trips were really highly paying. I enjoyed all the layovers. We did a lot of California, Mexico, Canada, big cities on bigger planes, on the bigger jets. So I didn't have to work alone. And yeah, so they are senior, but they are senior for a reason, and this might be one of the reasons. But again, like I would say, just get based in a domicile or bid for a domicile that you really want to be based in. So if you are from Chicago, and well, okay, Chicago might not be the best example, but yeah, let's say that you're from Salt Lake. You just want to be based in Salt Lake because that's home, but you heard from everybody that it's very senior. And now you're like, well, maybe I should go to Detroit and hold my line very quickly, and that's just where I'm gonna be. Well, maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe you will be just very unhappy there. Maybe you want to be based home. And I think that the first year is very difficult financially, and then also like relationship wise. I broke up with my boyfriend during my first year as a flight attendant, and partially it was definitely because of the distance. So really just think about it. I will always, always, always vote for being on reserve but being based home. So yeah, but it's definitely up to you. And last question, that's like a personal question for me. Do you ever want to work for another airline, and if yes, which one? I wish I could just say yes or no to this question, because I definitely go back and forth. And I think I mentioned it as I was answering my, the question about college versus flying. I go to college so I can have a good job, so I don't have to so I don't have to work low-paying jobs. Like, I know you can make decent money with legacy airlines over, if you stay with them over like 10 years or so. I get it. But, with what I study, I can make what I would be making with SkyWest after like 20 years. I can make that money basically straight out of college. I'm not saying that's like guaranteed or anything, but there is a possibility. There's a possibility to be making that money. And yes, I definitely understand that like money, it's not the most important thing. It's not something that will make me very happy in life, but at the same time, money gives you opportunities. But yes, I definitely miss flying. I miss the lifestyle. I had really great time as a flight attendant. But I am turning 25 next week. Yeah, next week basically. And I also, I don't know, it might sound weird, but I do wanna, like, I wanna have like a real relationship and eventually maybe, you know, like start family. Not, I'm not saying like that it will be anytime soon, but at the same time I kind of feel that it might be difficult to find someone and to have like a normal life as a flight attendant. I've definitely experienced it when I was a flight attendant. So that's difficult, but I'm not saying no. And I actually interviewed for a big airline in Europe a couple of months ago. And they are an airline that I want to work for. And I'm not going to mention the name of the airline because I kind of want to make a video about it and compare European airlines with US airlines and just tell you more about it. So as you can tell, I go very much back and forth between yes, I do want to be a flight attendant and no, I don't want to be a flight attendant. So there is no easy answer to that. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it and let me know if you have any questions or if you have any requests for videos. Okay, all right, see you soon.